In today's lesson, we're going to talk about one of the most important steps of the writing process, which is revising. So our writing process, again, has 5 steps. We start with our pre-writing, which is where we plan or we come up with ideas. Then we write our draft, which is our rough draft. Then we revise, which is where we fix or edit or change our ideas. Then we edit, which is where we fix spelling and grammar. And then finally, we publish our final draft. So we have already done pre-writing. You went through, you made a brainstorm list of different types of conflict that you could write about. We've already written our rough draft. You went through and you made a flash draft. And then in addition to that, you went through and you made a plot map of all the ideas that need to go into your draft. Now we need to start the process that's called revising. A lot of people think revising and editing are the same thing, but they're actually 2 completely separate ideas, and revising is almost more important than editing. So revising is the part of the writing process where we fix our actual story, the ideas of the story. It's where we make sure that we have all the parts that belong in the plot. So we have a beginning, we have a middle, we have an end. We have our rising actions, the 3 things the character tries. We have the turning point or the climax where everything changes in the story. We have the falling action, which is where the characters deal with whatever happened in the turning point. And then we have the resolution, how the problem ends. When we revise, this is your opportunity to go back and say, hey, I missed something out of the beginning, or my rising action doesn't make much sense. I need to change one of the events in my story. So again, when we revise, we make sure all the ideas make sense. We add missing details. We move things around if we need to, and we cross out the parts we don't need. An easy way to remember what we do with revising is the acronym ARMS. ARMS stands for add, remove, move, or substitute. So we can add new ideas and new details. We can remove ideas or details or scenes that don't make sense. We can move a scene or a detail if it would make sense somewhere else. So you put something at the beginning of the story and actually you realize it needs to be the middle. So you're going to move it to the middle of the story. Or you substitute. So maybe you read that sentence and you've decided to substitute for something that's a little bit better. It's almost the same idea, but you're going to change it so that it makes more sense. Again, when we are revising, we add details, remove details, move details, or substitute details. And a lot of times my students will tell me, but Miss Jacobson, I already wrote the best story I can write. Well, I always tell them to think of it like this. You are an author in my class. If you're in writing, you are an author. And how many times do you think like a real professional author revises? Because if you look at somebody like Stephen King or J.K. Rowling or somebody who wrote any of your favorite book series, think about that for a second. How many times do you think they had to write their story? If they're like an awesome, famous writer like J.K. Rowling or Stephen King, did they just write it one time? So J.K. Rowling, who, if you don't know already, she wrote the Harry Potter books. She's one of the best-selling authors of all time. She says that her idea popped into her head and she already knew like the full idea, but she still spent years outlining all 7 books. And then she spent an entire year writing the first one. But Ms. Jacobson, I can hear you saying, maybe it just took her that long to write her first draft and then she turned it in and she was done. But maybe that's not quite how it works. So I want you to take a guess. How many times do you think she rewrote the first chapter of just her first Harry Potter book? How many drafts do you normally do when you turn something in for school? How many do you think J.K. Rowling did of just her first chapter of her book? You got a number in your head? J.K. Rowling rewrote chapter 1 of The Sorcerer's Stone so many times that she says her first several versions of that chapter don't look anything at all like what she ended up publishing in the book. She wrote more than 15 different drafts of just the first chapter. And she's one of the best-selling, most talented authors of all time. So, today what I want you to do is I want you to use your best author brains. And I want you to read through your conflict story and decide, how can I make this story make more sense? What ideas am I missing that I need to add? What ideas don't make sense anymore? Like, I thought I knew what I was doing when I wrote them there, but I need to get rid of them. What do I need to remove? What ideas do I need to move around in the story? So initially you meet this character here, and now you need to meet them down here. What do I need to substitute? So maybe I had this character do this, but instead it needs to be this other character. How can you make your ideas make more sense? Also, if there were any parts on your plot map that you made yesterday that weren't in your story and you need to add them to your story, this is your opportunity to do it, to make sure that your story is fully fleshed out. You have your beginning, your rising action, your turning point or your middle, your falling action, and your ending. You need to have all of those parts in your story. And remember, when we have a story mountain, we have two different arcs that are in that story. We have the external arc, which is the basic physical stuff that happens. We have the internal story arc, which is what the character thinks or feels changes. So in the beginning of The Dumbest Boy in the World, Jack rips the wart off with pliers. But we also have to talk about what Jack was thinking or feeling at that moment. Why did he rip the wart off with pliers? Was it just because he decided to do it out of nowhere? No, it was because he was afraid his mom was going to take him to the doctor. When he goes back to the ER and he admits the truth, he doesn't just make the decision randomly, maybe I should tell the truth now. He wakes up and that red line is almost to his heart and he thinks, man, that's not good. Everything that you have on your external story arc needs to have a thought or a feeling on the internal story arc. And you need to have a beginning, rising action, a turning point, falling action, and an ending. So again, your task for today is to go back to your rough draft, to your flash draft that you already wrote. If there are any parts from your plot diagram that weren't in your original version of the story, you need to add them now. And you need to use ARMS to fix details. Add, remove, move, or substitute any ideas or details that need changing. We're not worrying about spelling today. We're not worrying about grammar. We're not worrying about using the best words. All we're doing is fixing the ideas in the story. So you're going to go to your writer's notebook, open that flash draft that you already wrote. Now you can see mine's just made up pretend words, but you'll have your actual story here. And you can actually go in and look, and you can use your reverse map if you made one already. And you can go through and you can say, okay, originally I didn't have an ending. Here's my revised ending because I thought of a better way to end this story. And I'm going to type some text. I don't need that sentence anymore. I don't like that paragraph actually. So I'm going to delete that paragraph and I'm going to replace it with a better paragraph. I have better details. And originally I forgot the rising action. So I need to explain what 3 things my character tried. Maybe this part right here is actually in the ending, so I need to cut, paste, move it to the ending, and I could just go ahead and add more text in and revise my draft. Whenever I'm done revising that draft, I'm going to go to the name of this page, click copy link to this page, and I'm going to go to the assignment called Revised Draft Submission Link. I'll click Submit Assignment, paste the link to that page, click Submit Assignment, and I have turned it in.